pledge. We could do the pledge again if you'd like. But
Very
we did the
nice.
pledge at the start of the other meeting. This is really just a recess.
All right, folks. As most of you are probably aware, the town board and the police chief were just having a ceremonial promotion of police officers in recognition of the police auxiliary in the other room, which is a little bigger. And now we're here to proceed with the rest of our agenda for the night. The first thing on the agenda, as always, on a regular town board meeting is the public comment period. I'm just checking to see about announcements. That's good. So I'd like to make a motion to open the public comment period. Do I have a second? From Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. I have a sign-in list here with about 9 people listed on that. As usual, we'll stick with our 3-minute rule. Most people don't need that much time, but that's the rule. And we'd start out with Cynthia Anselmo from Palisades. Welcome, Miss Anselmo.
Good evening. I'm just following up from the last meeting that I came to. After that meeting, I extended an invitation to the board to come visit my property to see the problem that I was talking about. Used to be a picture was worth 1,000 words. I guess that wasn't the case here because I had extended the invitation. I know Councilman DeVinny came to my property. I don't know whether anybody else had the opportunity to or not. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what his comments are, what the recommendations are, and what the board will do with regard to this issue. So I hope now, after Mr. DeVinny saw it firsthand, that whatever he has to say will convince the board that something has to be done to at least control guidelines, something that will control invasive species or plants from overtaking someone's property and doing damage to that property. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the board's comments are. And I may have more to say after that, but I'd like to know what they have to say.
Thank you, Miss Anselmo.
Okay.
Town board public comment is really for listening. When folks finish up, it's common for town board members to say a word or two about what they've heard. So you can look forward to that in a few minutes.
Okay, not a problem, because then at the next meeting, I'll come back and I'll be able to make comment on whatever I hear tonight.
Absolutely, or in the meantime. I mean, sometimes it's
Okay.
more efficient to email or speak on the phone or whatever. So.
Well, I would hope that after what Mr. DeVinny has to say, after seeing the property, that he'll have convinced the other members that something needs to be done. Okay?
Thank you for bringing
you.
that. Lori Peak from Tapan. Welcome, Lori.
Hello, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm just here in support of a resolution of a proposal to do some wonderful plantings along the Spark Hill Creek. I'm a member of the Spark Hill Creek Watershed Alliance here in Orangetown, and we're dedicated toward preserving and improving the health of the creek, which is one of the most polluted, second most polluted estuary in the Hudson River, believe it or not. So we're very excited that the Trees for Tribs, the DEC program, we're going to get some free trees and plantings and shrubs to be able to put along the side of the creek at Route 340 and 303. And this is going to help prevent flooding, improve the quality of the creek, and we'll be working with the Parks Department, and it's been funded by the Rockland County Soil and Water Conservation District, and our group is very excited. We're going to be donating our labor, and we're very appreciative that you're supporting this. Thank you, assuming you will.
Of course. That's item number 14, and thanks for your comments about that. Alexander Becknell.
Thank you. Good evening.
Welcome.
Yes. I'm also a member of the Spark Hill Creek Watershed Alliance since its beginnings in the fall of 2010. Our mission statement is as follows: The Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance is a community action group committed to promoting environmental awareness, partnerships, and practices that restore and preserve the health of the Sparkill Creek, from its headwaters on Clousland Mountain to its confluence with the Hudson River in the Piermont Marsh. Over these almost 5 years of our existence, this alliance has won a number of grants and awards. While acknowledgement from the larger Hudson Valley community is something to be proud of, we really need the support of the creek's own town, Orangetown. I ask that the board vote in favor of the creek-related project on the agenda today, and that the board will also be in favor of future issues on the Sparkill's behalf, such as changing and creating town codes to protect the creek from harm. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments about that. Item number 14. Esther Baitler signed in.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and Town Board members. For the record, my name is Esther Baitler, and I'm a consumer who lives at the Kathy Lukens Independent Living Center in Sparkill. Tonight I'm here to ask about the old buildings at Rockland Psychiatric Center. I really feel that they should be restored so that all the sister agencies can play basketball games against the other agencies so they wouldn't have to go up to Haverstraw. I think this would be a lot easier than sending two staff with a few people from Venture and all the other agencies who participate in the games. And it would be easier for the referees to be there. I've been at many of the games, and the referees really are not as sensitive as they should be. They should really be a lot nicer in refereeing our agency and all the others, but people don't understand it. They come when they want, and the other referees just make sure that the other agencies win against us. And it's not fair. That's not a way to play. A lot of them go there and support all the other agencies, and they tell them to beat up against our agency. That's not going to happen anymore. The other thing I'd like to know about, what is going on with the streetlight project? Andy?
I know you asked that last time we were here.
Yeah,
and
nothing's
to help,
been done.
and by your yardstick, it will probably be a while before anything gets done. But there is a legal process afoot, so the town would be buying its streetlights back from O&R
Right.
in order to save a lot of money. And it will be probably 6 months before that deal is completed.
But why
So-
6 months? Why isn't it being worked on now with Orange and Rockland?
I'm listening, but I'm not going to provide a lot of detail on that right now.
Andy, I'm entitled to hear what people from O&R are saying. This is not fair. This is a safety issue. It's time that people say exactly what's going on.
And I'll provide a little more information about the streetlight project when we do our roundup comments in a
I
minute.
also want to know what's happening with our sidewalks. Nothing has been done.
Thank you, Ms. Baitler.
Thank you. Have a great summer.
You too. Eileen Larkin?
Good evening, members of the board. Firstly, I'd like to thank Supervisor Stewart for asking Chief Nolte to look into an accident that occurred on the Palisade Parkway near exit, between exit 5 and 4, which involved an oil tanker and a Subaru. It happened on a Sunday, and I called the supervisor to express my concerns about what safety precautions are in place for an accident if the oil tanker had tipped over, which it did not, and the Subaru was really it had injuries to it, damages to it. But anyway, excuse me, Sergeant Nolte asked a Sergeant Palazzolo to look into it, and he called me on the other day and reassured me quite so that I would feel confident that the town has taken precautions, also the state has taken precautions and guidelines for if ever an accident occurred where an explosion would occur. So I thank you for that, and I thank the chief and Sergeant Palazzolo, who was very professional and took time to explain everything to me. A tanker was bringing gasoline to the gas station here between 4 and 5, and they get on Route 9, and they get on at exit 4 on the Parkway, and then go to the gas station, and I guess somehow or another but in 44 years, I've never seen a tanker on the Parkway. So I was concerned it was a dry day and what have you. But anyway, thank you for that. I also wanted to mention about the senior housing that has been pushed aside, the Toll Brothers, and I think it's timely that if the four of you, you have the majority, if you feel it's important to the town, bring Toll Brothers or bring whoever else wants to bring senior housing, quality senior housing to that RPC site, that you go ahead and do it. Have a public discussion and let them hear from us and let us hear from them. You have the majority. Go with it. You're holding the ball in the court, Okay. Okay. The other thing is whatever happened down at the sewer treatment plant over the weekend, I heard that maybe some raw sewerage might have gotten into the creek. So I guess I'm concerned about that, but whatever happened, I hope it doesn't involve fines from the DEC. If I should like to be able to bring a plug in for our Palisades Community Center is having a flea market this weekend, only on Saturday. It's another fundraiser, and we're doing quite nicely with our fundraisers. And we want to put in a handicap bathroom, and we have to bring our kitchen up to code so that we can, if we do rent it, people can cook there. Right now, nobody can cook in that kitchen. But it's a major fundraiser. It's a major restoration, which involves a lot of our fundraising activities and rentals. And the address is 675 Oak Tree Road. And hopefully people will join us and support the vendors, and we can go ahead with our plans to do that to the building.
Thank you. We wish you the best of luck in those projects at the community center.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Heather Hurley.
Heather Hurley, Pearl River. Good evening, council members. I'm here tonight to address what occurred at the May 19th workshop meeting, and I'm here to obtain answers from an email I sent to all of you on May 22nd, which still has gone unanswered. At the request of Councilman Valentine on past occasions, I sent an email in response to his May 22nd email to me and 2 other members of the Stop Inelitech movement. Here are some items from my email that I would like on the record and addressed. 1. What exactly prompted you to vote yes to allow Inelitech to present at a workshop meeting that didn't allow for public comment, was not on the agenda, and was held on the same night as a statewide school board election and proposition vote when they already received final site approval? You were all emailed information from Denise Shorn in February disputing the numbers listed in the Triumvirate and Trinity reviews, and the public spoke out in opposition to this project during various town board meeting public comments since December, but yet again, no one did anything. Again, the fact that these quote-unquote independent reports are still posted on the town website is as misleading as Inelitech's lawnmower analogies. How can any of those reports be considered independent when all of the information used to furnish those reports was solely provided by Inelitech? How can this town board continue to constitute these as independent? I find it offensive, Councilman Valentine, that you stated in your email that the members of Stop Inelitech, quote, never seem to be satisfied with results that may not conform with the information they are giving people in our community. After all of the recent events surrounding this proposal, the mishandling of information and discrepancy, would you actually be satisfied? 2, it is reprehensible to me that the town council members, with some exception given to Supervisor Stewart, have not initiated anything in the past 6 months to work towards a zoning amendment. Yet you all waited for this project to receive final site approval before taking steps to amend the town code's prohibited uses. Legal cases were presented to all of you, and a paper was submitted by James Riley, which set Anelitech apart from the McGee case and other legal cases, yet most of you argued very publicly in one way or another that the town would lose. Mr. Valentine, you also stated in your email on May 22nd that it is, quote, less compelling when Anelitech is defending its own numbers. Well, that's what they've been doing all along. And all of you, with the exception of Supervisor Stewart, have defended that. On February 10th, Councilman Divney stated about the DEC report, which really isn't a report, that he read it and it's pretty compelling. Well, why are you all so concerned now? Anelitech already received final site approval. What is in it for you? And how on earth is another firm going to test actual emissions and provide real data on a stack that is not even built yet? How can you justify another review solely based on Dr. Bahari's claims while information in 2 other reviews cannot even be verified? This makes no sense. And lastly, and equally as important, will all of the town council members guarantee tonight to the public that at the upcoming June 16th public hearing, you will all support and vote in favor of a proposed amendment prohibiting the manufacturing of BTX in the town of Orangetown? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Mark Hovsepian? Nope. All right. Kevin McCormick?
Good evening, Town Board. Thank you very much for listening to me. My wife and I have been residents of Sickatown Road for about 7 years, and we would like to know what the Town Board is going to do about the drainage and runoff issues from the Henry Kaufman Campgrounds and the Manhattan Woods Golf Course. I have some pictures I'd like to share with you of what our property looked like on Saturday after the storm and after several storms in the years previous to that.
That'd be great, and I'm just taking notes on what you're saying here, so if I'm not looking directly at you, it's because I'm trying to write at the same time. Here are the photographs.
But what our property looked like on Saturday happens multiple times a year now, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. We constantly get large amounts of water on our property. Every time it rains more than 2 inches, this is getting progressively worse. We've had up to 8 inches of water in our basement with 6 sump pumps running, and that's how much water comes down the hill from the campgrounds. We've spoken with the campgrounds about this. They feel that it's a Manhattan Woods Golf Course issue. We're really not sure where the water's coming from, to be honest with you. We've had mud in our pool. We've had debris in our yard during many of these storms. Frankly, I'm tired of worrying every time it rains that I have to run home and check my basement or check my house to make sure it's not flooded. We're concerned that if more development is allowed on the campground, that this is going to become worse. We're concerned that the town allowed the Manhattan Woods Golf Course to be built with no plan at all for drainage, apparently. The water flows out onto Sickatown Road and damages ours and our neighbors' driveways and properties. It creates a safety issue on Sickatown Road with large rocks every time we have a decent rain. Saturday, frankly, was very scary. Within a period of about 15 minutes after the rain started, we had a torrential 12-foot wide river running between our house and our neighbor's driveway. And it had at least 8 to 12 inches of water was coming down over that area. Our neighbors and the previous owners of the house have been dealing with this issue for 30 years. It's getting worse and nothing's being done about it. We would like some action by the town board on this immediately. Thank you very much in advance for your time and for looking into this.
Mr. McCormick, if you could just give us that information and your contact information in an email.
Sure.
That would make it much easier to refer it to the town engineers and highway department, others who would need to have a look.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor@orangetown.com might be the easiest way.
Okay.
Robert Beers? Uh-oh. Okay. More flooding, I'm assuming. Oh my goodness. Here, these are duplicates.
My name is Robert Beers. I've been a resident on Sickatown Road for around 40 years. I have seen common campgrounds grow from a few simple ball fields to what it is presently now. My family and I are not against the program of common campgrounds. They're going to expand that tremendously again. But as our neighbor Kevin just stated, there is no provisions for runoff water. We have developed a regular river that runs around the back of our house. It has cut into our property probably 3 feet deep, at least 6 feet wide. This has happened over 30+ years. I have tried through numerous boards to try to get a little support to go someplace. We were there before the golf course. We took water before the golf course. We're taking more water now, probably due to the golf course. But this situation is getting nothing but worse. I don't think it's fair as a taxpayer or to residents or my water when the pipes that I have tried to put underground in an open trench does not take the water. My water flows over into Kevin's property. It's a disaster there. This past Sunday, or Monday it was actually, the town of Rockland County was down there, and they cleaned up the rocks and debris. We have basketballs floating down. We have plastic bottles floating down. We have all kinds of things that comes with this heavy rain. I would really appreciate it.
I forgot to start the timer, but I was
Okay.
listening to what you were saying.
I'm done anyway, but I would appreciate it if I could get the support from a board. I once tried numerous years ago with Michael Fury of Pearl River. He too could not get support. I need support on this. Something has got to be done with drainage. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention, sir. It's definitely something that needs to be looked at by engineers. That's it for folks who signed in by raise of hands. Yes?
I signed in.
Okay.
My name was mispronounced, Martin Supnick.
I didn't see it here, but Mr. Sutnick, if you would approach the podium and that would be great. You must have signed in on a different sheet of paper because it's not
My
here.
name is Martin Supnick. I've been a resident for 30 years, and I'm here to talk about feral cats. I don't know if people are aware, but these things cause tremendous amount of damage, not just in this country, but internationally.
Could you just say where you live, please, briefly?
Pearl River,
Pearl.
Nanuet, New York. New Zealand, in fact, has a whole eradication campaign because, for one, they kill rare animals not only in this country, but other countries that have caused extinction of many animals. They're the #1 carrier of rabies as well as other diseases. Unfortunately, my neighbor decided to collect these cats, which has made for great difficulty because the laws are non-existent for cats in Orangetown. I was told that if I lived in Clarkstown, which I'm about 40 feet away, it would be better. They have a law banning just releasing animals and letting them run all over. But I've tried all kinds of dealings with the Department of Health and the police, but they tell me the law just does not cover cats. And it's got to be the point. I mean, I have some horror stories in here from other people where, you know, they shoveled literally feces from all over the place, and the cats stay in one area. That's part of the problem, that they reproduce in one area. Maybe squirrels will spread out, but the cats stay in the area. They reproduce in the area. It's extremely difficult to get rid of, and I feel I need some kind of help from the council to pass laws that say it is illegal to feed feral cats, or certainly law to not let them just run all over, because this person has done enough to qualify as the owner of the cat. He's fed the cat, he's kept the cat in his house in the winter, he's taken the cat to a vet, he's gotten them vaccinated, but he is the owner, but still the law says, well, says nothing in that. That's the whole point. So I just like to see something passed to help that, at least equivalent to Clarkstown's law. And that's really the main thing. I have a handout on that. If I could give
Feel
it
free
to
to distribute it to the town board. We'll read it and
Okay.
consider your comments.
This is Clarkstown's law, as well as a brief section, an article
Thanks. I was hoping you'd bring a copy of that law, so that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the information. Somewhat relevant to this is a contract for the Hightor Animal Shelter, which does include a provision that feral cats may be brought by the town up there. But we'll speak about that when we get to it. That's it for folks who signed in. I saw a hand up back here. Yes, sir, in the blue shirt. Yep, we'll get to you. We're going to take the folks who haven't spoken yet, and we're not going to be making any decisions tonight about feral cats. Yes, sir.
How are you? My name is Ken Cully from Nanuet. I was a little surprised and disappointed to hear that the Anello Tech people were able to come to an executive workshop on May 19th and speak. First of all, you've already given your support to the Anello Tech project, with some restrictions, of course, to cover yourselves, and you've also failed to pass on a moratorium against it so we can get more facts. I'm told now that the Anello Tech requested the appearance because of remarks made during a 3-minute presentation by town residents. So, Mr. Sandusky doesn't like what's said at the town during the 3-minute section, so he gets to come and appear here. He brings his Rotary Club presentation, he brings his own screen, he brings someone to record him. He has no time limit, and it's made during an area when there's no public comment. Mr. Sandusky is an entrepreneur. He's starting a business. He's requested $750,000 of tax dollars for us to start his business. He's not from here. He won't be staying here, yet he gets unlimited time to speak. Yet the people who have been to these hearings time after time after time, who have put their own time, they've done their own research, they've done all kinds of research, they've paid their dues by living in town, and they've paid their taxes, they get to speak for 3 minutes, and that's it. At the zoning board, where we're disrespected and basically mocked by the zoning board chairman, at the planning board, where we're spoken to like we're children, we're called environmental extremists. Yet, Mr. Sandusky gets to come here and speak as long as he wants and makes his full presentation. Fellas, I'm not an elected official or a politician, but some of you know that in my past career, I've been in a position to make tough decisions. And when you make those tough decisions, you have to realize there's two sides to every story. And if you only want to hear one side of the story, you're only going to get one side of the story. So now you guys have put yourself in the game. You invited Anello Tech here to a workshop meeting. I think it's only right that you reach out to someone like Heather Hurley, who's run the organization for Stop Anello Tech, and give her an opportunity to come here to a workshop meeting, to bring Dr. Bahari, he only had a 3-minute section, to have an honest discussion of what's going on, and let's do it the right way. And if we do it the right way, then maybe you will have a better understanding if you listen to what was said there, and you'll vote the way you should vote against the BTX proposal to ban. You should vote for the banning of BTX being produced here. Another thing, to show a puppy and a moose during a presentation, is this like a joke? What, are you kidding me? Is that like stage 1 and stage 4 cancer that they're going to cause here? That's an insult. And if I was on the board, I would have told them to stop and leave, because that is an insult. And if I was in a presentation and that happened, I would end it right there. I don't think it's funny. If they thought it was funny, it was a real bad joke. We don't think it's funny. We think it's very serious, and we hope you guys take it serious too. Thank you very much.
By raise of hands, is anybody else here to speak tonight? Folks who haven't spoken yet. I'm sorry. Who are you pointing at, Tom? Let me.
Woman's been trying to get up.
Yeah. There's someone else who hasn't spoken yet, so that's why I was going to call someone else. Go ahead, Ms.
Yeah.
Becknell.
Yes,
On
yes,
the topic of cats.
I'll be brief. Well, it's a controversial issue, but let me say I belong to a group called Care About the Strays of Rockland County, and it's our mission to reduce and control the feral cat population. As we speak, there's a feral cat in my basement who was neutered today, and he'll be going to a farm upstate. So this is something that we do. We want to control, not kill them off, but definitely control and reduce the population through spaying and neutering. And the veterinarians who are giving us, who are cooperating and giving us the low fees, and we are accomplishing really a lot through spaying and neutering feral cats.
Well, thank you for that good work
And I
on
can
behalf
give
of the
my
community.
card to-
Right, there's definitely some information sharing that can go on among the different folks concerned about the feral cats. I saw a hand up before. Manny?
Hello again, gentlemen. I've been here many times on many different occasions, as well as these people have been here on many different occasions. And tonight I want to talk about integrity. C.S. Lewis said integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. No one was looking at OMM and what they've been doing for the past 5 or 6 years. In my opinion, they lacked integrity. But we're looking now. We've looked at their numbers. We've looked at, they've come and presented to you, gentlemen, and what they have presented is a pack of lies. And yes, I'm calling them liars. And the sad part is, you guys have not done your job and figured out what is true and what is not true. Mr. Supervisor, it's your job to hold them accountable to their contract that they signed, that they wrote. We have requested for their compliance documents for the past 4 or 5 years. And I was told the other day by Eric Gordon that Mr. Edwards said, we're not going to go back and get them to give those compliance documents. So the past 4 or 5 years, they haven't cared to even provide those things. And right now, you guys don't even care to get them. How is that possible? How are we supposed to trust you when you wouldn't even uphold the town policies? How are we supposed to trust you when you allow companies like Analytech to come in and do whatever they want? They are producing BTX cancer, and it's okay. OMM doesn't adhere to policies, and it's okay. Where does it end? In your emails, Mr. Stewart, you said that you didn't want the Toll Brothers in here. You want to sell more land to OMM. Well, guess what? If they did not have over 500 kids from out of state, we wouldn't need more fields. How can you, in good conscience, allow kids from who don't live in our area to come in and just do whatever they want with these fields? At least I know what I get from Dennis Troy. He told me to my face, I'm an OMM guy. I'm going to vote for whatever OMM wants. I respect that. He took a stance. But he also did tell me he wasn't keen on their elite program, and he knows they're at 30%. It's absolutely wrong what you guys are doing to this town. And come November, you guys are on notice, because I don't think you're going to make it through. And you're trying to placate the Analytech people, which I'm one of them. I see right through it. You're, hey, we're going to have a moratorium paper. It wasn't even a moratorium, and you know it. It was, hey, let's explore a moratorium. So do your job, because I'm tired of doing it for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorenas. Is anybody else here to speak tonight by raise of hands? One in the back. Yes, Mr. DePrisco?
Good evening. I didn't expect to speak. Just a few comments on some items on the agenda. Number one, I see that the Officer Mike Kopanek is retiring. You know, he's been a school resource officer for the Pearl River School District for several years. And on behalf of the Board of Education and the school district, we want to wish him much luck in his retirement. Thank you very much, Mike, for what you've done for the high school. Number two, I want to commend Chief Nolte, the very nice presentation and the honors you had for the auxiliary police. Many, many years ago, 30-some odd years ago, I was an auxiliary cop in New York City for 3 years, and really appreciate what you've done for the auxiliaries here and honoring them. I know they work very hard for the town. Thank you very much. And also, I appreciate Thank you. And I appreciate the service you do with the promotions here. Very nice. I like the way you handle it here in town, and the town board. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
All right, thanks for coming out tonight. Any others to speak in public comment period? Hand up, Mr. Lattice.
Dimitri Lattice from Piermont. I would like to echo some of the comments made already because, quite frankly, as a voter, as a taxpayer, I am wholeheartedly disappointed with this town board. We've come to you over and over and over again and told you about a problem. Remember, somebody took a permit application, checked off a box that said 85% compliant over and over and over, season after season. Lies on a town document presented to our town government. Now, before last fall, we brought it to you. We said, that's not right. Did anybody do anything about that? No. Who is going to step up and take responsibility for that? This happened on your guys' watch. Our town fields are overrun with out-of-town kids on your watch. Who's responsible? No one stepped up. No one challenges the new lies. We get a whole slew of additional data about demographic change. The numbers aren't there, gentlemen. Look at the numbers. Not one number that's presented to you by that organization can be trusted. They'll tell you, oh, if we had to apply for a permit this season, we would have to cut all the kids from Nanuet. There aren't enough kids from Nanuet to cut to make up for world class. That's the problem. The problem is World Class FC has overrun the soccer complex, and you guys aren't doing anything about it, despite the fact all the power's there. You have it. There's no like, oh, well, we're not responsible. It's the planning board, which we've heard over and over again on other issues. On this issue, it's all there. It's in your hands. Do something. But no, we're not going to do anything. You never asked for accountability. They stood before you and gave you a whole slew of new information. You'd never asked them once, what happened to the 7,000 athletes you said you had? And now you're telling us 3,000 athletes. What happened to the 85% you said you had? And now you're telling us 60, 70%. We don't even know what, because it's projected numbers and it's this and it's that. It's all fuzzy, meant to cover up. And you never challenge them. None of you. You just soak it right up and say, oh, great, yeah, we'll sell you more fields based on lies, false promises.
That's certainly one side of the argument. Is there anybody else here for public comment?
I didn't hear you.
I said that was one side of an argument. Is there anybody else here for speaking at public comment? A motion to close public comment? Over here? Do I hear a motion to close public comment? Valentine? Second from anybody over here? Second from myself? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Just a couple quick comments. I'll start off. There's always a lot of important issues that are put on the table during public comment, and there's no way we can really adequately respond with detail to every question or concern. And so again, I reiterate my invitation to anybody, particularly if you're bringing a new issue, please give us an email, your contact, the description, and we'll get answers back for you. Bamboo, it's clearly an unfair situation when someone's bamboo is coming across a property line or coming up through your driveway and ruining it. That's unfair. And what I hope we can get to is some clarity about what can actually be done about that that's a reasonable solution. On the Spark Hill watershed, thanks so much for the volunteer work by the Watershed Alliance in conjunction with the Parks Department, the Highway Department, the Soil and Water District, and the DEC to continue to improve the stream banks, where it creates, a vegetated buffer that's good for water quality and it also beautifies the community. So great job, guys, and let's keep up the good work on the watershed. On the streetlights, Ms. Baitler asked a question. No doubt the question will continue to be raised. As noted before, the town, along with others, is exercising its right to negotiate with Orange and Rockland to purchase its streetlights for a price that needs to be negotiated, and that's where the back and forth is right now. When we get to the right price, hopefully we will buy them and start paying a lot less for their maintenance. The eventual conversion to high-efficiency bulbs will save more money. I'm confident that the cost-benefit analysis is there, and we're going to try to make that deal work. On let's see, as far as soccer goes, it's been very intense, and the Rockland FC has raised a lot of questions, and I think compliance is very important. It's not that we're doing nothing, it's that there's been a number of conversations and negotiations going on, and they are not concluded yet. One of them, those conversations, which we've encouraged wholeheartedly, I think all members of the town board, is direct conversations between Orangetown Mighty Midgets and RFC over soccer programming for Orangetown and the disposition of the complex. And that concept of integrating programs or partnership is one for which I, for one, had high hopes. I've spent a lot of time talking to the various parties, and I know other town board members have as well. And while it's true that the residency requirement has not been met by OMM, I, for one, won't stand by and hear an organization which is 45 years old and has contributed so much simply cast as a bunch of liars. I don't think that's fair, and I would expect to oppose the same kind of caricature of any other important organization in town. There are complexities to the sports situation and field allocation, public-private partnerships which have been complied with in many respects, if not in others, and the conversation and working on that in the interest of the public will just have to continue until we get to a place where there's really a solution that everybody can live with that doesn't involve sort of the wholesale dismemberment of an organization which has been around for so long. That's how I feel about that anyway. And I do think that as far as Lot 1 goes, in terms of future field development, we could talk about that because I know Councilman Divany has also brought a proposal for a residential development there. That piece of land, which is near the soccer complex and near the lake, is part of the larger Rockland Psych town-owned lands that need redevelopment. And while it's somewhat peripheral to the core of the site, it's very important. It's currently zoned recreational, and we could talk about whether that should be changed or not, but certainly there are various options for its redevelopment that could be in the public benefit. Lastly, on Anelotech, this town board, and I think the members of the community, and myself in particular, have spent a lot of time trying to raise as many of the questions and concerns that need to be raised as possible, to listen, to provide information, and to foster a healthy debate. And to me anyway, our town board focus right now is on what is within our control. Having seen the final decision from the planning board, our job is, as I proposed, is to review our town code as related to the production of toxics in our community. And that hearing will take place on June 16th. And it would be improper for a town board member, I think, to say anything about how they will vote until we've actually had that public hearing. And that was one of the problems that kind of came up earlier in the process with other land use boards, is sort of the sense of needing to collect all information before making a decision. And that includes the public hearing and the public comment on June 16th. But I look forward to having some success as we go forward, learning from the Anelotech experience and improving our town code and protecting public health wherever we can as we move with the times. That, I think, will probably be enough said on the various topics right now. I want to give other town board members a chance to comment, and we do have an agenda for tonight with a lot of important stuff on it. Over here.
Regarding the bamboo issue, I did drive by it's invasive and it's destructive. And it's a little overwhelming because you drive by, and it's on Oak Tree Road, which is a busy road, and you're worried you might drive by it. These stalks are like 20 feet high on the road, and, you know, I didn't want to go in the back, but the town board definitely has to do something. I don't know, I really don't know what we're going to do, but we need to do something, and that's something we're going to have to discuss. But I mean, to say it's impressive because of the size of these bamboo plants, it is impressive and how tall these things are. So I did go by twice, and it is, you know, it's a problem because it's just right down your property line. It's right there. So that's the bamboo. As far as what Mr. Cully said, I have no problem with Mr. Bahari. I said that to Ms. Davin last week. I have no problem giving him equal time, Mr. Bahari, to present his findings. And, you know, just Mr. Bahari can present his findings and answer questions just like an Elitech did. I have no problem with that. I've always said it's about getting information out to the public, so I have no problem with that, Mr. Cully. And then as far as soccer, to say the board hasn't done anything, that's a disservice. I've been on the phone with members of both Rockland FC and OMM, hours upon hours, meeting upon meeting, mediating, arbitrating, helping you guys come to solution as far as your clubs, because there isn't, I've said this, you guys did bring a need to this community for more of a town-based travel soccer, but I think there should be one program for the entire town. You guys may not agree with that, but, and I do believe that there are more fields needed in this town, and some of you may not agree with that, but as I've told members of Rockland FC, I get calls from Harvard Little League, South Orangetown Little League, Patriot Football, which they're coming back. They're going to have more football teams coming out. The lacrosse league. So there's needs that have to be met. It's about the kids. There's going to be more kids that are going to need more space, and working together as a group where you have more access to money, where you can pool your money, makes more sense than all these groups competing against each other. And I remain hopeful that you and OMM may be able to resolve this. I always answer your calls. Maybe not immediately, but I always get back to you, and my phone's always on. So, and Lot 1, I'm bringing under new business. I do think we should enter into a contract with Toll Brothers to sell them Lot 1. They put an offer of $3.4 million, which would bring in $1.3 million in taxes every year. It'd be age restricted, so no kids would hit the Pearl River School District, so it wouldn't do and have any devastating effects on the school district. And I think that we owe it to the community to have a vote, whether you're for it or against it, and the reasons for or against.
A few things. I also did drive by your property with the bamboo, and it is overwhelming. Again, I don't know if we need a law to outlaw all bamboo, or we need to adjust maybe the property maintenance law where your neighbor puts it on your property line and it affects your house. Maybe something, but it's something needs to be looked at and something needs to be done, because it's a lot worse than what your pictures show in reality when you're there. So. Okay,
Thank you.
it's my turn to speak. Okay, thank you. So
No,
then on,
we're going to let Councilman Valentine respond, and then Troy
and I
and
sat
Councilman
quietly
Moore.
and listened to everybody else, and even while I was getting blasted, I sat and listened. So now it's my turn to speak. So thank you, but I did look at your house and I agree with you. So you should be happy on that note. As far as Dr. Bahari and his letter, 2 letters to the Our Town, and coming in to speak about the facts. So when I have an Elitech come in, I asked them to come in. I asked them to come in because I wanted to know what their version of the facts were. We heard Dr. Bahari twice. I read both his letters in the Our Town, and I wanted to know what the truth was, because the truth matters here, right? It matters about public health. So yes, it is past the land use boards, but if they're not telling the truth, that is something we should really know. So I also asked for an independent study of Dr. Bahari's letter and their response, because I'm not a chemist. And when they're telling me that Dr. Bahari is 100% wrong, and he is not exactly telling the truth because the chemical he's saying is benzene is not benzene, it's I don't know that. If you want to ask me an electrical question, I can answer that. I can't answer you about chemicals. So I've asked that there was still money left in Anelitech's account, because they had to put money into an account to have the first 2 independent studies done, that we use some more of that money and take all of the information, which we were provided quite a bit from Dr. Bahari, and the information that we were provided by Anelitech, and tell us the truth, so that we can tell the public the truth. So while it is passed by the land use boards, and I can't go back and change that, I think it would be pertinent if they're telling, if Dr. Bahari is correct, and I don't know how you could be against that. I mean, isn't the bottom line the truth? I mean, shouldn't, you know, just because someone says something doesn't make it fact. So just because Anelitech says it doesn't make it fact, and just because Dr. Bahari says it doesn't make it fact, let's get all the information together and get a third party who is not privy or part of the Stop Anelitech movement, or not privy or part of Anelitech, and let them review all of the documentation that we were given. So I'm not going back and starting over from the beginning. I'm not doing that, right? We've been there, we've done that. It went through the land use boards. As far as the land use boards were concerned, they met all the criteria, they were safe, and that's done. So I can support Andy's law about manufacturing a BTX, and I could find out these letters that are coming out after this is done, because these came out after it was passed the land use boards, that they were lying. And let's see if they were really lying, or maybe they weren't. So I think it's important, and Anelitech agreed, and the town,
And we had an
Building
email this
department.
afternoon from John Giardello with a letter back from Trinity, which will be in your email box, and we just have copies of it tonight as well.
okay, that
So
whole
that'll
long
be
letter,
something to look
we're not
at.
going to read that
Yeah,
tonight, so.
It's got a fair amount of
But-
detail in it.
And if can that be put on the town website?
I don't see any reason why it can't be put on the website. If
Okay,
it's-
so then you
want it there,
guys can review the findings of the independent thing, and then you can come back at the next town board meeting and have your 3 minutes to tell us what you think. All right?
Just, Paul,
that-
here's just for your convenience, the hard copy of that letter.
Okay. So obviously, this is the first time that I'm. gonna
Nobody's
give
had a
it.
chance to look at it yet, basically.
Nobody's had a chance to look at it. So, that's all I have on the town stuff right now.
Thank you, Paul. Dennis?
Paul and Tom basically covered what I was going to cover, just in terms of whether the recreation. One of the things I would say in terms of the speakers who came up about Rockland FC, in terms of stating that nobody's done anything, whether we're asleep at the switch or whatever we are up here. I've been involved, and I told you the night we met with you, I've been involved with youth recreation my entire time I've lived here in Orangetown, and I started at 18 back in the Bronx. I was integrally involved with Pro River Little League, CYO basketball. I was involved with the South Orangetown Little League fields. I was involved with the OMM fields in terms of the development of those fields. You would have next to nothing if we didn't do what we did when we bought RPC. And one of the things, and I still have to figure it out, you know, my peer here, Tom Divany, is pushing Lot 1. One of the things we still have is we have to have 214 acres of recreation based on when we bought 348 acres of the Rockland Psychiatric Center. And one of the things I always talked about is, even when we bought it, and I was the one who pushed to buy Rockland Psychiatric Center, is that it should be used for parkland. And We also have the challenge of getting tax ratables in there. We've had that challenge all along. I put a lot of time into when Hovnanian had its proposals, and then that went belly up. And one of the things I did say is, before I leave here, I would like to see some resolution on RPC. And I would also like to see some resolution with OMM and Rockland Football Club. Rockland Football Club came up with a product that was definitely needed. There's no doubt about that. They started with 3 clubs, went to 8 clubs, went to 13 clubs, went to 18 clubs, which then they needed a lot of fields to handle their 18 clubs. So they invented a problem that we had to come up with a solution, and we're trying to come up with a solution. One other thing is, I am a basketball referee, and I also ref Special Olympics. I ref up in Haverstraw, in West Haverstraw. I also ref here in the town. The referees, that maybe not all as sensitive as I am, Esther, but I'm only kidding. Esther, you can't speak. I'm only kidding you. The thing about the basketball, Esther, I'm on the venture board also. The basketball referees do that as volunteers and have done it for the 25 years I've been reffing basketball here in the county. And I think the basketball referees do a great job. And the one asterisk is the venture basketball team was not that good this year. That's why they lost, not because of refereeing. Thank you, Esther.
You got to start it, man. Like Dennis, I spent a lot of time in youth recreation all across the board. There was one particular league where the president of the league used to start off every meeting facetiously saying, "Remember, this is not about the kids." And it drove it home. And I think what's happening here, in my opinion, with the soccer, they need to come together to one league. We got great facilities here. We got great activities. We got great enthusiasm and participation. A lot of the parents make friends by going to the games and watching their kids, which again is great for the community. We got to pull this together. It's got to be one league. There's no other recreation league that I'm aware of that splits other than geography. So this whole fight is really about the adults, in my opinion, and it's got to be solved. And all the resources are there, and the wherewithal is there. So that put aside. Probably a month and a half, 2 months ago, the Orangetown Environmental Committee came to the board to talk about the bamboo situation in the town. It was sort of an ad hoc discussion. It wasn't really a planned agenda discussion. So it more or less went on the lines of discussing the best way to handle it. As they said, do we pass a law or how do we approach it? It's good that Tom and Paul went to look particularly, and I think it's time that we do sit down and have a full discussion on the best way to deal with it, because although there may not be a lot of occurrences, I certainly know I wouldn't want it in my next-door neighbor's yard. So that should be down on the agenda.
Right, yeah, Martin Ryan from Orangetown Environmental did do a presentation and proposed codes that were derived from partly state law about invasive species and also Piermont. And I think Ms. Anselmo's aware of those as well. So I'm happy to organize that as another item for discussion at a workshop. Not hearing any other comments from the town board, I'd like to advance to the items on our agenda. Some will require some discussion perhaps, some won't. I did, actually. But this is one of these things where you're bringing a new issue, and it's going to take some research, essentially. Number one, excuse me. We have a number of items which are town support for special events that involve support from the Highway Department, the Parks Department.
Andy, I'd like to make a motion to put the approved aids for Pearl River Fireworks, number 1, Fire in the Sky, number 6, Pearl River Day, number 7, and Relay for Life, number 10. Move those all together.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you to all the groups organizing these events, and to the Parks Department, the Highway Department, the Police Department, and others who provide critical support for those events. Item number 2 is a received file from the clerk's office, and there's a list of documents there. There's 7 of them that are received. We have a motion from Divany, second from over here.
Second.
From Moore, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much to our clerk for that. Number 3, this is, all this stuff has been workshopped last meeting, actually, except for any new business items, which will be talked about later. So number 3 has to do with the contract for fiber communications, and I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second? Second from Valentine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And thanks to our IT folks and finance folks for getting the town a great deal. Number 4 is the auditor's report. Received and filed. This is from the Justice Department. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
From Divany, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Number 5 is the approval of Anchor Fence of Rockland for putting in a fence in the park. Do I hear a motion for that one, please?
Moved.
From Moore, second from Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 8 is approving Custom Gardens landscaping for the mowing of the RPC land the town owns. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Moore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was a bid. Great. Number 9 is accepting the resignation with regret of Police Officer Michael Kapunik. Do I hear a motion for that? Sorry, Kopanek. Thank you, Tom. Motion from you, second from Valentine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 11 is approval of hearing officer William Sherwood for a civil service case, so on and so forth. And it has compensation list and so on. We have a motion from Troy, second from Moore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Number 12, this is emergency drainage repair at town property on Chief Bill Harris Way. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second over here, Moore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Unanimous. Number 13 is our annual agreement with the Masonic Park for summer camp. And it's great that they're donating that space once again, and we thank them wholeheartedly for that. Who would like to make a motion for this? For Valentine, second over here from Troy. All in favor say aye.
Can
The
I
ayes
just add
have
to
it.
your compliment to them now, reading their letter? We always thank them for the use of the property. Turns out that because of summer camp, their utility expenses go up as well as a result of the usage, and they absorb the cost. So they're really good to the town and the kids.
Very generous in our Parks Department. It's a very, very popular program, and kudos to Eric Gorton, who's here, and his staff for keeping a whole lot of kids happy and safe during the summer. Number 14 is the item about the riparian buffer planting with grant money and the supervision of the Parks and Highway Department. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second? From Valentine, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Just one of many good things going on with the Spark Hill Creek, partly as a result of the Spark Hill Watershed Alliance's work. Number 15, we did the promotion of police officer Michael Shannon to lieutenant, and we did the promotion of Joseph Grunsky earlier tonight to sergeant. Those are both done already. Number 17 is a transportation contract. Bless you. With Chestnut Ridge Transportation. Do I hear a motion for that one, please?
Moved.
Second from myself. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right, number 18. This one might need a little special treatment. This is the adoption of the local law amending the town zoning law to change the zoning district for two properties located in Blauvelt off Route 303. And there are a whole bunch of whereases here. This has been workshopped. There was a public hearing. And it looks, is this one vote or two votes, John?
It's really just one vote. It involves a comment from the County Department of Planning, which if you were to override it, would require a roll call vote and a majority plus one. I've incorporated that into the final resolution because the county's recommendation or condition actually is that you simply evaluate other surrounding properties, which you did. So, however, just as a proviso, I included in the final adopting resolution that in the event that comment were construed to be more, then you override it if you so choose. But so you should do one vote, but with a roll call, which includes that.
It's only one address, right? Is the one address, John?
Two addresses.
Two addresses.
Two tax parcels.
Two.
All right, so
28 and 29. Charles, you have your hand on it right there, on the second page. Keep going.
keep going, it's on the other, keep going, there you go.
Oh, I got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so
So who's going to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right,
I'll second it.
second from Valentine.
On a roll call.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Divney,
Yes.
Councilman Ballantyne,
Yes.
Councilman Troy,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
and Supervisor Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who helped put that together. And good luck to the whole Seppian family and their neighbors with their, all their longtime investment in that street and the community there. It's wonderful. Actually, just taking a little ride down that street and because of this resolution. That's the items that are on that part of the agenda. We do have a new business item. This has been reviewed before by the town board. I know we have another one from Councilman Divney. But number 19, I guess, would be this question of the town's annual contract with the High-Tor Animal Shelter. We had put off voting at least once, if maybe twice, because the town attorney was working with Clarkstown Town Attorney, with the animal control officers, and with the management of High-Tor to clarify and create a agreement that's the same for all towns and that would help to prevent some miscommunication and kind of breakdowns between the various parties that use the High-Tor shelter. And I think that this contract, for all practical purposes, has been reviewed by the town board before, but I would ask our town attorney just to say a word or two if there are any recent changes in it that you can remember, just to make sure that everybody's aware if there's any salient change.
Well, I previously had circulated the draft contract that was initially prepared by Clarkstown and reviewed by High-Tor. It was intended to address a number of concerns raised by the animal control officers of all of the 5 towns. And they relate to not only cost, but to access and a number of the services that were expected but were there were difficulties, record keeping and the like. And so it was agreed at a meeting of the supervisors and the town attorneys and the animal control officers that Clarkstown would take the lead and would prepare a draft contract. They did that, circulated it. I provided a number of comments. and I passed those along about 2 weeks ago. There was one open issue that I thought was inconsistent in the draft. It still exists out there floating around because no one else has adopted it, and it involves the payment schedule. And while the contract is a one-year contract to be paid quarterly, the draft indicated that payment, the initial payment would be due on January 1, and it would be subject to the receipt of a variety of different records required to be maintained. But you can't do that. I mean, you can't, make a payment for the first quarter if you're making it in advance and expect that you'll get the records that are required. So I changed it to payment in arrears. The first payment is due on April 1st rather than January 1st. To the extent that there may be operating difficulties and a need for funds, there's a proviso in the draft, and that's what I did today, the change, which allows the town in its sole discretion, given reasonable assurance that it would be receiving the documents required, that it could advance all or a portion of any quarterly payment, depending upon needs and requests. But otherwise, the contract provides for payment in arrears. And that's essentially the only change, I think, since the last draft that was circulated to you.
All right. Well, thank you for that update. And note also, it's not directly your concern, but the contract with Hightour does provide for the inclusion of feral cats. So they can be taken to Hightour and left there. And by this contract, Hightour is responsible for them when that happens. And so that's just sort of a piece of the puzzle as far as feral cats goes, is there is a place, if that's what's needed, to take them. I'll make a motion to approve this resolution. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second from Divney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right, so that's
that. All right, under new business, I'd like to make a motion to authorize John Edwards to enter into negotiations with Toll Brothers in accordance with their offer to purchase the property at Lot 1 for $3.4 million, effective immediately. No one's going to second it?
Well, second for discussion.
All right, second.
First, you did a great job, Tom, bringing this in. That's why it's definitely worth talking about. The one question I have, what came up at the same time, we had actual alternatives, was the organization, the private organization that was going to build a pool. And that totally separate from OMM. That was an add-on later on, so be clear. It was a private pool that was going to pay taxes. And I know they were going to pay less money, so that's our decision. Toll Brothers are going to pay more money up front than the pool will, and they'll also pay more in taxes along the way. So the question then comes, on a long-term basis, which is a decision we're making, do we want to take the extra money and build houses, or do we want to look at the pool option? But adjacent to that is where we at with the pool. Is there any movement on that? Are they still interested?
the offer still stands. And I could describe a little bit about what that would look like. When you're finished making your comment, Tom, I'm happy to comment.
Let me ask you this, Tom. I know you mentioned there's an urgency to this. Is there?
I think the people in the town should, be put out there. The reasons for either voting this down and going with a lower offer for $2 million less.
Mhm.
So I sat on this and I can't sit on it anymore.
Right. But I don't think we had a full discussion about the pros and cons of each option.
I sent an email out to everyone on this board. The only one that responded was Andy.
That's an email, it wasn't a discussion.
I told you that we needed an answer, and that was weeks ago.
I think we may as well just move forward. We're having a discussion right now, so we might as well make the most of this time, whether we have a vote tonight or not.
Well, we'll vote. You'll either vote for it or you won't vote for it.
Well, what's the harm of waiting to the next meeting?
Because I want to vote on it tonight.
Would the deal go sour if we wait?
Listen, the deal's already going sour. I already said that. But I want to go back to them in one last effort to try to salvage this. $3.4 million, $1.3 million in taxes a year, which is the equivalent of a 3% tax increase. I mean, we always talk about soccer fields and sports fields, but there's a lot of seniors in this town that want to be able to stay in this town. They can't do it. If we're not bringing readables and we're not, doing something that benefits them. So,
I agree. I'm not arguing with you.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm trying to get the alternatives down in front of me before I make a decision.
My only concern is, Lot 1 is the jewel on the crown, for lack of a better word. It's the best lot we have on all of RPC. And we have 50 tentacles going in every direction, where we're gonna partner with the state and not partner with the state, and whether Lionsgate's gonna buy the children's center, and, if we're gonna have more recreational, it would be nice to have all the recreational together in one spot. But I also understand what Tom is saying, that, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, so it may be worth exploring that. But I just wish Toll Brothers could pick another piece of property, because that is the only piece that is directly connected to the other recreational piece. And if you're gonna put all the recreational pieces together, in the long-term outlook of the town, it seems to be the best use. So I don't want to rush into something to get a quick buck that's going to bite me in the rear end later when I say, if I would have saved that piece and could have did this, and that state would have did this. And so while they're dangling the carrot, and I appreciate it, and I think that it's a good offer, but we've already had one senior complex come up before that went through a whole bunch of hoops and then fell by the wayside. I just want to make sure we're moving in the right direction, and I don't think we've had enough discussion on this for me to vote yes on this tonight. That's just my feeling. Go ahead, Dennis.
I also appreciate Tom's efforts in bringing Toll Brothers here, and he put a lot of time into it, and I know he did. I met with the representatives from Toll Brothers with Tom. I expressed my doubts at the time. Again, the $3.4 million is very appealing, being that we paid $6+ million, for the entire 348 acres to begin with. But one of the things that I also worked on back in 2003, 2004, in that time frame, not successfully, was for a town pool. I still have scars from that, where there were people who were very strongly for it, people very strongly against it, and most of the people were strongly against it. But just add on to what Mr. Valentine said, and I still believe that the contiguous recreational facilities along the water there is still something that I always wanted. And as a matter of fact, this town board voted at one point, probably 2 years ago, Mr. Stewart, when we voted for the recreational land right along the reservoir. If Toll Brothers goes in, those properties are going right up to the water. And one of the things I do know, even if they had a buffer, like say of 100 feet or 50 feet, one of the problems we had, and again, one of my other things that I had in the past from scars was on the rail trail, where we had homes that were right along the rail trail. We're talking about crime coming in behind their property and whatever. And that was a battle at that time. I think now the buffers are built pretty much up. But I think that some of those houses would not want running trails along the water there, right in their backyards. And I am not ready to vote for this at this time. And I'm still looking for more information on the pool.
I have one more comment. If I'm correct, and maybe I'm not, maybe John could tell me, if we do sell the property, that doesn't go into our general fund to lower the tax. That goes back to pay the bond. Okay, so it doesn't have a direct effect immediately, except for the, okay, I just want to
The
make
debt
sure.
payment go down.
Certainly the debt service cost.
This won't be a town pool, so that's a little misleading. It'll be a private entity that owns the pool that you can pay a fee to, which you can do at Prohibition Ocean Swim Club, West Nyack Swim Club, Stony Brook, so I don't see how it's any different. And my understanding, it's an indoor pool, right?
It's, Tom, to your point about being misleading, I'm sorry, if I implied that this is going back to what we had with the town pool, no, it is a private entity.
Okay.
It is an indoor pool. They have plans on having an outdoor pool. The people who are developing this are developing competitive swimming. I know I may not look like a competitive swimmer, but I was. And like to be again one of these days when I retire. But the competitive swimming, they have master swimming for old people. Just pointing that out to you. But it's an indoor competitive pool with the bleachers, et cetera. Could be used by the high school teams. All right, but it is a private entity. You're 100% correct. And again, they plan on having an outdoor pool also. They do, in the second phase.
It's not a town pool, it's a private entity.
Which pays taxes.
Offers a significant less money for that land, which is the jewel. So why would we be selling jewels for lower than, you have an offer that's $2 million higher? I don't, as a fiduciary of this town, I don't understand how we can take a $2 million offer that's less, when we have another lot, which various organizations were given permission to do studies on, right on the water, which has a high water table, which would be more suitable to such a project, which wouldn't be fetching such a high price, which would be more suitable for that kind of development, which is adjacent to the Stedge property, so it would be lined up with all the other properties. So there are other properties that could put this pool there, which is not the jewel property, it's a less valuable property, which maybe that's where you would direct them. So, I'm done discussing. I think we'll just vote on this.
That's fine.
I'd like to make it, just provide a little information too. I won't be voting to sell Lot 1 tonight. And I do, it's certainly, the attractive, and we've talked about this before, but it's just really for kind of the purpose of discussion and for folks who are here trying to walk with us in this journey about the redevelopment of Rockland Site. I like, I think it's important to point out, first of all, that the town's main challenge is the redevelopment of the core of the site where all the 50 big dead buildings are and so on. And it's interesting and important, and it might make sense to sort of debate or compare and contrast what to do with Lot 1. But in my mind, it's sort of a timing issue, and we really should be focused on the core, and that's generally what I spend most of my time thinking about, which I'll talk about in a second. But as far as Lot 1 goes, selling it for more money and having residences there is attractive from a financial perspective. What's somewhat more attractive to me, anyway, is the concept of a three-way kind of plan for that lot, where you've got that long-awaited and promised waterfront park down on the water, entirely public, passive picnic area, so on, in the old scout camp. If you've never walked down there, it's just absolutely beautiful. And then you've got the for-profit. If it's an aquatics, great. If it's some other recreational, it would be interesting, but I like the aquatics proposal. It's for-profit, pays taxes, takes a certain amount of the land, pays market rate for it. It gets a vacant lot going financially. And then you have a chunk for nonprofit recreational development that would be of public benefit and wouldn't cost the public purse anything because it would be entirely privately developed. So that sort of three-way split on that, to me, kind of fits together, and it's a nice image, and it's the one that I would have in mind, recognizing that it's not as high a priority as the core area is. And prior to these offers from Toll Brothers and from the aquatics folks, we were really always thinking that we better be very careful about disposing of the jewel before we've dealt with the burdened area of the core, because for all we know, the best proposal for the core will necessitate some kind of associated plan for the nice waterfront areas. And so the work that's been going on, in part, has been trying to figure out what to do with the core area, and that has been a long, drawn-out and very frustrating conversation with the Office of Mental Health in New York State. in an effort to jointly market our lands. And we've gotten a long way through that and probably have agreement on a number of issues. But it's been painful, and I think from the perspective of developers, they're always going to be wondering what the state is going to do. And that's kind of a turnoff. Over the last several weeks, or really over the last year, we've gotten to know the folks, Lionsgate folks, who film Orange is the New Black down at the former Children's Hospital, and have had informal conversations with them, or the people who work there and kind of organize that site, about the movie industry and television industry, and they essentially, they would like to buy that site. And
What
that's
site?
another thing, the former
psychiatric
Children's.
center. We're talking about lot one.
Just let me kind of spell it out a little bit.
You're trying to avoid the whole question.
No,
We're
I'm-
talking
well,
about anything
yeah.
but lot one, Andy. Talk about lot one,
Tom.
let's just vote.
I did talk about lot one.
Okay.
And I told you why it's important to talk about the other stuff too, to have a real conversation. So just bear with me for a second, because I know that you're impatient.
I'm not,
But
I
I think that the opportunity may
losing my
exist
mind up here.
to use our combined influence, for whatever it is, to try to get the Office of Mental Health to simply sell the former Children's site to the Lionsgate folks, with the primary goal and benefit, in part being that it's already established that they're a good neighbor. It's tax-paying, rateable, with sort of attractive from a number of different perspectives. And furthermore, one of the biggest risks associated for the town with the redevelopment of Rockland Psych is, what is the state going to do with its jewel? And if that question were answered in a way that was satisfactory to the town, it would really take a huge burden off our own work. And I think that if you look back through the whole history of the conversation about how to redevelop Rockland Psych, you come back over and over and over again to this question of making darn sure that something that we don't want doesn't happen at the former Children's Hospital. And so if we could resolve that, it's a priority for us. I think we all agree on that, and it doesn't mean that we can't do other things in other places. But that is one of the things that I'm pushing for, is to have those conversations with Lionsgate and with Office of Mental Health, and see if, I know the town board has essentially registered its support for that general concept, and we need to find out more. So we're proceeding on that angle too. And for all of those reasons, tonight, with respect, I wouldn't support just simply starting to negotiate and selling lot one.
All right, roll call.
Somebody here to call the roll? I'll do it myself. Oh, here we go, sorry.
Councilman Dibley?
I vote yes.
Councilman Moore?
No.
Councilman Valentine?
No.
Councilman
No.
Supervisor Stewart?
No. While we're on the topic, we've discussed by email a little bit, having conversations with our Wilson Elser folks and with Lionsgate folks. And now we'll proceed and try to create times for those discussions where most everybody can participate. And then for those who can't make it, we'll certainly report back. And we'll continue on that trajectory a little bit. Also note that the town has been working through a number of steps related to getting OVESC from occupying, this is the Orangetown Volunteer Emergency Services, both sides of Chief Bill Harris Way, over just to one side, to free up that road for future development. And that's another thing that we've been working on. So Jeff Bensick with our audit.
Okay, the audit for tonight consists of 2 warrants for a total of $1,289,087. The first warrant consists of 59 vouchers for $169,000 and was for utilities. The second warrant consists of 277 vouchers for $1.1 million and includes the following items of interest. Number 2, CSEA Employee Benefit Fund, $26,000 for dental benefits. Number 7, Metro Milagrante, $17,000 for Blue Hill Chemicals. Number 10, New York State Department of Civil Service, $598,000 for healthcare benefits. Number 11, Persistent Construction, $98,000 for Spark Hill Creek flood mitigation project. That's a DASNY grant. Number 15, Sprague Operating, $22,000 for fuel. Number 17, Terry Company, $34,000 for parks, landscaping, materials, and chemicals. And number 18, Tilcon, $23,000 for highway materials. Any questions?
So moved.
We have a motion from Troy, a second from Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you, Jeff. We have a request from our park superintendent to speak briefly with the board in executive session related to some personnel issues and staff performance. But barring that, we have a couple of adjournments, memorializations, and is there any other business for public? No.
Yeah, no, I'd like to speak about Mel Liebman. Mel Liebman was one of the great leaders in our community. He was an icon. And again, I spent 25 years in Little League, and I know from my participation in Little League that he was a great supporter of youth athletics and also CYO basketball. And I know my kids dressed top of the line. They didn't go to Barney's. They went to Mel's, Army and Navy. I dress Gentleman's Quarterly from Mel's also, but Mel worked there 57 years. That store was, besides his wife and his family, was the love of his life. He was a World War II veteran. You know, talk about the greatest generation. That's who Mel Liebman was. And one of the nicest things we did here, and all the wonderful things we deal with here in the town, is we named the street at his 50th anniversary for Mel Liebman Plaza, and that sign is still up there. Jimmy Dean put it up, and that was a resolution passed here. So he's really going to be missed. You know, again, it was just a cornerstone of Pearl River. Mary Bader also was a founder of Camp Venture, which I'm on the board. Mary Bader is also the grandmother of my daughter-in-law, but Mary Bader was a lady with 2 master's degrees. It was a lady ahead of her time. It was just an inspiration, I think, to all women in general. She was just a spectacular lady. I was on the board with Mary Bader for the 20 years I've been on the board, but just a terrific lady.
We're also memorializing the passing of James Favaro, Harry Leggett, Philip Willikow, and Stephen Milo Connolly. In remembrance of these good town folks, I'll make a motion to close this meeting. Do I have a second? From Troy, all in favor say aye. The ayes have it. But we are having an executive session with the park superintendent and the town attorney.